Welcome everybody to Wizards and Warp Drives. What was that? You sound like you farted.
That was my my headphones going crazy on me. I got a shorted out contact there. Hello. Jesus.
Let's try that again. Welcome everybody to Wizards and Warp Drives. I've forgotten what the words are now.
Two middle-aged geeks nutting out over one particular topic every week with call-ins from viewers. Hello everyone.
No, I have a thing I say. Welcome everybody to Wizards and Warp Drives, the podcast where two grown-ass men get deeply nerdy about the things they love. My name's Nacho, and joining me as per usual is the mighty glue stick himself, Mr. AJ Pickett.
Hello everyone. Shall I explain why I'm called the mighty glue stick, or do people know?
No, go for it.
Because I really like glue sticks. Back when I started my YouTube crafting, it was a crafting channel, and I used a lot of hot glue to stick together bits of cardboard and stick maps on top of the raised cardboard. So instead of having like a full 3D map with walls that you couldn't see over top of, it was like half-sized walls, and yeah, just like a raised elevation. So it gave it a 3D effect, but you could still use the map really easily. And they're really tough, and you could just use a pair of scissors, a crafting knife, and some glue, and a printer, and away you... Yeah, it's for people who really hate painting, which is me. I hate painting miniatures.
I don't find it relaxing.
No, and I really, really hate painting terrain because usually it's like you use it once or twice, and then it gets biffed or gets knocked around, or yeah, I can't be bothered putting like in storage bins up on top of my shelf and stuff. Yeah,
I always thought painting miniatures would be really chilled and relaxing, and I remember during COVID I was going, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint miniatures, and I had to give up. I got so angry because I'm short-sighted. I've got fat fingers. I come from hospitality, which has lent me with the inability to like be slightly short-fused.
Yeah. Yep.
Painting miniatures was not for me. I got a bit of a nickname as well. Someone referred to me as the friendly grognard.
The friendly grognard. I like it. That's a good one.
So yeah,
descriptive, hopeful. Breaks the trend.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. What have you been up to this week, mate?
Not a hell of a lot. It's winter, as we know. So just bunkering down. Building an igloo.
This winter has not gone away. It's just getting worse and worse.
It lingers. Well, the snows never cease.
It's a miserable winter as well. It's like really dismal.
I go outside and there's no fruit but lemons on the trees. It's just bitter. It's a bitter winter. But other than that, I've put out a video and have been working on other projects on the side, but really not a hell of a lot.
Nice. Did you catch that D&D live stream?
A bit of it, yeah. I can't really say I was a huge fan.
No.
It was a bit much.
Project Sigil. I know how to say that now. I am part of the clan. I think they actually mispronounced that at the live stream though. They called it Sigil.
Yeah. I didn't even make it as far as them getting to there, but I did see a little bit, like I skipped ahead in the video when I saw them using the miniatures and the gold dragon was floating around, and I was just like, that's not impressive. Well, that's not a good way to present it to a crowd. It just missed the mark because it's like, okay, Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated work because they're a crowd performance thing. Like that was a stage performance, and putting a computer display on a stage performance just didn't work. It's not the right medium for it.
This is my note I made because I was like writing this and I had some thoughts and I wrote a note down at the time. I wrote, Project Sigil's demo turned into a tech circus where players were more focused on troubleshooting than entertainment. It was more of a live action tech support than D&D.
Yeah. It was distracting. Yeah. So on the one hand, their acting was really like over the top and hammy, and then it just didn't translate well onto the screen.
It was horny. It was a very horny. There was a lot of.
Well, you got the guy who's playing Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, Neil Newborn.
Yeah, and the chick that he was sitting next to was on some sort of a crusade. That's for sure.
Yeah, Angeli Bimani, I think her name is. She's
Yeah,
been popping up quite a bit recently
yeah,
with
yeah,
official wizard stuff.
yeah,
And Brendan, obviously Brendan Lee Mulligan was in there. He wasn't the DM though, which was quite surprising.
yeah. He was obviously the star of the show.
Mm,
He is always the star of the show. The guy just is a natural 20 charisma
yeah,
person.
yeah,
So yeah, what he brought to the table was a shitload of memes, which are going to be around for years to come, I'm
yeah.
sure. So hats off to him. He really saved the show, and he's really the reason why you should watch it.
It was definitely a game of two halves. So the first half was very traditional live action. They used
Yep.
that to kind of showcase a few of the new rule changes. So I noticed they did a surprise round to sort of demonstrate, and they specifically said, "Oh, this is how a surprise now works," and
Mm-hmm.
explained it. And then they took a little break, and they came back, and they all had laptops in front of them, and they attempted to show us this new VTT, and it was just it reminded me of Battle Chest from Commodore
Yeah,
64 days.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Very static, very dry. Yeah, sad.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I lament that like the Acquisitions Incorporated got model makers who donated their massive
Mm.
projects to them, and you got some really cool shit like the Beholder,
Yeah.
Automaton, and the airship, and the Citadel that they had the big roving fight on. All sorts of stuff, and a lot of it was theater of the mind too, like the guild headquarters and stuff like that. I still know the layout of the dwarven fortress that they robbed,
Yeah.
and all sorts of stuff, like, you know, and Red Larch and all those places are alive in my mind thanks to those games. But are they going to map the entire Forgotten Realms and put it onto a VTT format so you can go through the official Baldur's Gate map or something like that? I don't know. Will it get tied up with copyright from fucking gaming studios that they license stuff out to? I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes because it can only get better from here.
Yeah.
Because that was a pretty base, low bar
We've
start to it.
almost so obviously today's topic we're going to talk about 5e and beyond, and we've almost skipped right to our last point, which is the future of D&D.
Yeah.
I personally think it'll be tied into published adventures, a bit like how Beyond is doing with maps at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the encounters will be in conjunction with their future published adventures, and they might even do some backwards from the stuff previously.
Yeah. I think we'll get to that topic at the end of the podcast. But my vision is more of a Frostgrave D&D arena, being something that would work for that medium specifically. I think that's what the VTT is really built for. We talked about that on our last pod when we talked about 4th edition, how the 4th edition strategic rules were more miniatures focused and we're really good for that sort of thing. So yeah, but I see it. Who knows? Anyway,
it's not something that I want at my table. Like, I don't want my players turning up with laptops or sedering at their It's bad enough with phones and D&D Beyond at the moment.
Yeah, so, I don't even do it through live stream, like over, what do you call it? Electronic games, video conference call games. It's too distracting. Yep. I like to look at people's faces.
Cool. All right. Well,
use Microsoft Paint. You know.
So this week we're going to continue our history of D&D. It's the season finale, I guess. We're doing 5e and beyond. So we're going to cover the development. We'll go through the popularity. We'll have some personal reflections, and we'll think about the future. So development of 5e actually began in 2011, 3 years after 4e.
Right.
So
that was very, very quick.
It's ridiculously quick. They obviously had concerns over 4th edition, and they quickly scrambled a team together, which was Mike Mills and Jeremy Crawford.
Poor old Mike Mills.
He was one of the main designers on 4e as well, so he did survive. Yep. He got picked from the 4. He's the only one from the 4e team. Oh no, James White, he continued, but he wasn't in the development team for 5th edition core rules. and they got out a thing called D&D Next, which they did a public playtest with, and they managed to get 175,000 people to playtest this thing.
Yep.
And AJ
Here is my printed
physically
out,
holding it.
My printed out copy of photocopied and double space printed book of D&D Next. So I played this the whole way through the playtest, adding sections as we went. And it was a much more, let me tell you, it was a much more collaborative experience developing 5th edition than anything that they've emulated, but the heart has not really been out. Like the way that they playtested stuff for this new edition coming out hasn't been the same. It's really just floating stuff to see what sinks or whatever. But for 5th edition, they really stripped everything back and said, do we really need this in the game? How sacred is this cow? Can we kill it for the health of the herd? We want a fast, efficient, vanilla system that doesn't have stuff in there which is, if it is optional, make it optional. If it isn't optional, make it part of the core rules, as was their philosophy. And they wanted to balance it out finally and fix the actual mechanics of the game, which they did in a way. And we call that balanced accuracy.
Yeah, so they had, this was the agenda pretty much, was simplified mechanics, ease of learning, versatile play, story-driven gameplay. So they were trying to earn back goodwill from 4E. 4E did a lot of damage to the brand. Yeah, almost killed it. So how many times has D&D almost died now?
A few.
We're on our 3rd. So we got, second edition almost killed it. Well, first edition, Lorraine Williams came in and saved first edition. They were 150,000 in debt.
Yeah, that was your healing potion, right? Yep. So she
second edition,
cash, so it just got a boost.
Yeah, and then second edition almost died from just over committing books.
Yep.
Wizards of the Coast came and saved that. Third edition, I think it was stagnated. It didn't grow the brand. And obviously when Hasbro took over Wizards of the Coast, they're all about growth. If IP doesn't grow, it's worthless to them. So that was their problem with third edition. It was respected by the community, but it wasn't bringing in new players. It wasn't getting normies to play D&D, which is what they wanted. So then they shot for the stars. MMOs were obviously the thing of the day.
Yeah.
So they tried
that was more like a reincarnation of the game. So they went straight past healing potion and straight into we're just going to rebuild it and make some sort of a Franken monster and see if it flies with the young folk. And ironically, nowadays it probably would have done a lot better than 5th edition.
So yeah, 5th edition came out in 2014 officially. We got all the cool books in the same year. So we got the starter set, which includes Lost Mine of Fandelver, which is so many people's introduction to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and also a big contributor to the YouTube community, I'd want to say as well. A lot of people went out there and sort of boosted their YouTube careers on the back of this little adventure.
Yep.
We also got released the basic rules for free as a PDF. We got the player's handbook out first, and which was a little bit strange, as we got a adventure soon after the player's handbook rather than the 3 core books. They outsourced the adventure to Kobold Press, which was Horde of the Dragon Queen. So you had this
not well received.
No, it was very railroady. And this adventure came out the next month. So Player's Handbook came out in August, and this came out in September. And then we didn't get the Monster Manual till November. And then in December, we got the Dungeon Master's Guide plus the Rise of Tiamat, which was the conclusion to Horde of the Dragon. So simplified mechanics. They sort of streamlined 3.5e with the proficiency bonuses and unified armor classes.
Yeah, they tied everything back to your attribute scores, and they put hard limits on attribute scores, which really balanced out the game.
Yep. They really focused on bringing role-playing back as well. So they brought the background system in, which provides traits and backstories for character development. Gives it more
character centric. I would say is more less story development and more character centric to the way that the mechanics work. So everything ties back to being dependent on the player characters to be the instigators of everything. And there's lots of 5th edition provides a lot of tools for the Dungeon Master. There's a lot of options in the Dungeon Master's Guide that you can play a very, very different game with all the options they give you in there. They also give you some really good streamlined rules mechanics in the D&D Dungeon Master's Guide, like the mob rules, for instance. So with mob rules, what they do is they average out the amount of hits that come in because they know what the statistics are, because we've been playing the game for such a long time. We know what the average amount of hits per 5 monsters. If your armor class is this, it's going to do this much hit points worth of damage based on the average amount of attacks that the monsters do. So you can really quickly just shorthand combat and not even have to roll dice or check with the players. You can just say, okay, this is how it works. And you can work out mass combat and stuff. And that's why you can work out, for instance, how long it takes. Like it takes 10 rounds for a bunch of ordinary town guards to kill an adult red dragon in the game. You can do that without running the combat yourself, without rolling the dice, because you know what all the averages are. So if it's more than or less than 10 rounds, it'll be because of the dice. But if you just average it out, that's how long it takes. It also informs you that the D&D world is not as cut and dry, or it's not quite what you all have been told by players over the years. Like the reason why dragons don't attack cities full of town guards, for instance, is because it's certain death for them. They will get killed by mobs of humans. And in 5th edition, if you're not very careful about how many opponents you're facing, even relatively low-grade monsters like kobolds can quickly overwhelm and kill you because of the amount of incoming damage, because you can't fend off or ignore as much as you used to in older editions. It's easier to get hit.
Yeah, the average damage definitely is good for speeding up combat when it drags out too much. But I still like, I threw a purple worm at the guys yesterday, and I still like rolling 8 d12s in front of the players.
Yeah, I'm talking about mob combat is like if you got 50 monsters that you're facing.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
Yeah, but one-on-one, the tactical rules for 5th edition are really dynamic, which is cool.
Yeah. I think the Dungeon Master's Guide is probably the book I've read the least, and I know it's got a lot of good stuff in it, but it's so poorly organized. I find it it doesn't naturally flow. It's the new cool book I am looking forward to the most. I think I've mentioned this before because I think it's the one that could do with the most improvement. But I've always liked Dungeon Master's Guides. Even the 4th edition stuff that I read recently. There's so much good stuff in that.
Yeah, the Dungeon Mastery Guide from 1st edition Pathfinder was one of the best ever Dungeon Master Guides that I think I've ever seen, outside of D&D Basic. But they've kind of taken a leaf from the right, like the way that the PHB is organized for 2024 is more like D&D Basic, how they have the adventure sort of thing at the start, and they introduce you to the game before you roll up a character. That's really good. So 5th edition, it didn't really teach you how to play the game very well.
No, well, a lot of people think it's quite easy. I mean, that was the idea behind it, was easy play. Hang on, my dogs are trying to scratch to come inside. Hang on one second, sorry. Come on.
Got a new rule. Every time Nacho breaks away from the microphone, I'm going to have another toke on my joint.
Worse than children, mate. 3 dogs.
Parrots are worse. Parrots are worse than dogs. At least dogs can do things. What's a parrot for?
At least my dog doesn't give me an attitude.
Here's my annoying animal that lives in my house.
At least my dog doesn't give me an attitude when I tell it to have a shower. Yeah, so balance of mechanics and roleplay, flexible character classes, story-driven gameplay. The art style as well was greatly improved, I thought, and the ease of homebrewing. The other thing as well is they kind of said sorry to the community by opening up the OGL again.
Yeah, eventually. I wouldn't put that as a plus in their favor. You made that sound like it was a gift of some sort. It was an attrition
Mm.
to pressure from their own audience. Yeah, the OGL was a dark stain where they tried to take away um, the right that they'd transferred to everybody in perpetuity, and then said, "Oh, in perpetuity doesn't mean forever." And I was like, well, "Yes, it does." Um, to the general public, I know we're not lawyers, but in English, yes, it does. So yeah, but we fixed that. That was a really good demonstration of how a bunch of YouTubers can basically rile up a bunch of people.
Well, they created their own enemy by,
They very much did, yeah.
not including it. So I don't. I kind of meant they were really trying to apologise to they were, please come back, please
Yeah.
come back to us. We're sorry.
Yeah. The really bizarre thing is that happened midway through the edition. Like it didn't start when they published the edition, because they could have got away with it if they did it right when they published.
It wasn't popular to start with.
Yeah.
The boost. So they also the first few adventures were outsourced as well to third party companies.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Also, they outsourced their electronic side of things. So
Yep.
they went through like Cursed Gaming or something, and they went through Twitch has been their mainstay, which is also a mistake because they went through Twitch to set up all their computer-sided stuff.
Yep.
They really should have gone through YouTube. So they're idiots going through a gaming channel. Twitch was always in it for itself, not for the benefit of the, So the influence from Twitch means that a lot of YouTubers got shut out from basically any sort of interaction with promoting or running events and stuff like that, because it's just those two worlds don't communicate with each other very well.
Yep.
And I know it seems like kind of logical to go with Twitch, which is a gaming platform, but it's not a video game. It's a live performance game. And so YouTube was much more suited to that sort of audience. Anyway, the other thing was that the person who was developing their D&D Beyond software for developing characters and all that sort of stuff, they were supposed to have this fully arranged character developer with like background art, animations, and all sorts of cool shit. More like the sort of character builder that you have in Baldur's Gate 3, actually. But the person who was running that company got ideologically insane or something, had very, very strong creative differences with Wizards of the Coast and the two-part company, and set them back on the electronic side of things through the entire edition, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the tools that we were used to having in 4th edition just weren't there early on in 5th edition's case. So again, YouTubers stepped in and pulled a lot of slack and presented a lot of stuff and explained a lot of stuff to people. Yeah. So most people resorted to going to the YouTube to learn 5th edition stuff. Or
it kind of leads onto my next sort of like the growth of popularity. So it didn't really get popular till around 2020 as the spike, where we saw a 33% increase in sales of Dungeons and Dragons. But that there was a steady, you can see there's a timeline there where it was slowly. To me, there were three things that basically combined that helped create this growth. So we got in 2015, we got Critical Role, which was the first, well, not the first live stream, but the first live stream that had a massive audience that started to get a following. I'm sure we don't need to explain who Critical Role is. There are numerous other live streams around. Acquisitions Incorporated is one that's been around way before Critical Role.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously these guys were very charismatic, and so that kind of showed people what this game was to an effect. A lot of people, so the normie people, they didn't know what Dungeons and Dragons were. They'd only seen it, so it still was that niche hobby that it's that game you just sit around with funny dice and make funny voices. No one really knew what the game was. So it kind of explained the mechanics and, the players, the dungeon master's purpose. And then in 2016, I don't know how you feel about this guy, but we'll find out. I thought he was a big influence. So we got he's a very charismatic YouTuber, is Matt Koval, and he started his Running the Game series, where he basically started to. So if you had an interest after watching Critical Role, then there was this guy on YouTube that was showing you how to play the game and how to be a dungeon master. And it was a very, a good series, a good entry point series that explained it in plain English of your role as the dungeon master and how to play a game, and it referred you to other links and where you can get influences from. And then in 2016, Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, retro, it buzzed into that 80s retro culture, and Dungeons and Dragons was a heavy influence. We got the Demigorgon, we got Vecna,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mind
even
Flayer.
Yeah, so even people from, I mean, me and you are probably the perfect age for Stranger Things, because it's right at our nostalgia point where we were a similar age to what those kids would have been at that time.
Yeah.
But it grew larger than that, obviously. And then 2017, D&D Beyond finally got onto the market where people could, and the PDF rules were free. Lost Mine of Phandelver was free.
Mm-hmm.
And you could digitally make characters, easy as.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, we got a pandemic where suddenly everyone had free time. And on top of that, there was virtual tabletops suddenly were making a comeback. So platforms like Roll20 just saw this significant rise. And from that 2015 and up to 2000, so in 2020, D&D saw a 33% increase in sales just from that year.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, I think we talked about this last week, do you think this is all down to 5th edition, or is this just a number of other factors?
It is very much a number of other factors. Like before Matt Colville was around, streaming your games through Google Hangouts was where we originally started doing it, because they had a lot of tools. Like there was a dice roller app that you could add on to it and various other things. So it was almost like we used Google Hangouts to make a VTT, and then Google Hangouts changed its format and we migrated to other platforms, and people at the same time were making more custom built stuff. So that's where Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds and all that sort of stuff came from, is Google Hangouts kind of breaking down and losing us and us going to other things. And the very first broadcast games were like Underwood, and The Gentleman Gamer, and the YouTube Brigade. But a lot of those channels were very anti-commercialism, so they didn't put any advertising on their videos. They didn't charge any money for anything. Nobody charged money for running games. In fact, they were very anti-capitalism involved in role-playing games. And so there was a disconnect between them and the parent company, because the parent company couldn't use them for promotion, because they would have immediately been rejected by everybody who watched their videos as shills, right? Very much reflective of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And
nerds will let you know when you're being a shrill.
Yeah, very much so. Matt Colville broke the mold, though, because he was the lightning rod for the Kickstarter platform when it comes to publishing. So he established his audience online through bubbling up through the strata of all the other YouTubers, right? So he's got to make his way through all of that first. So he stands out kind of clear because he's an independent published author with his 3 books, and that's originally why he started doing his videos, is because he wanted to sell his books, Rogue and those books. Really good, by the way.
Ratcatcher series, isn't it?
Yeah, really good books. And not Patrick Rothfuss, but everybody's got their taste. So then he put his money where his mouth was, and he published Kingdoms of Warfare, and not Kingdoms of Warfare, the other one.
The Bastion book.
Strongholds and Followers.
That's right.
Yeah. So Strongholds and Followers was kickstarted, and it broke all sorts of records on Kickstarter because it generated what I call the Matt Colville effect, where you bring your YouTube audience with you as pre-existing customers ready to buy your product. Then you launch your Kickstarter. They all back it immediately. It boosts it on the Kickstarter analytics. Then that kickstarts all these advertising things. All the advertisers latch onto it because they see it as a hot ticket, because it's just it's got a big spike at the start of it, and then it snowballs until it becomes a must back. It's like, oh well, everybody's backing it. It's got all these unlocked extras for cheap now, so it's a really good financial thing. So everybody backed it.
Well, not us, because shipping.
I did. It's on my shelf right behind me.
What did you pay for shipping?
Yeah. But yeah.
It's almost the price of the book, isn't it? Shipping from Kickstarter.
It's expensive, yeah. But yeah.
But I think those three...
hang on, my headphones are going crazy again.
Oh, has your cat been eating your headphones? Sorry.
So that was Martin Colville. But yeah, as with all things, he's on the shoulders of lots of people who came beforehand.
I think there were three things. Obviously, Stranger Things got Dungeons and Dragons into the cycles.
It's a combination of familiarity, so people have been reintroduced to the idea of Dungeons and Dragons through media that it had never been on before. So they've got the live plays where they're watching people play. So that they go, oh, this isn't as weird as I thought it is. It's basically like improv theater.
And these people are really good looking and charismatic. They're not
nerds and then the improv theater people went, oh, this is improv theater. So why the fuck are we not doing this? And then you get the Critical Role guys and the Acquisitions Incorporated. It's like, oh, we can do this as a performance when we're stuck inside and with COVID and stuff. Like we can just literally do it online and screen it.
And how do you play this game? Oh, look, there's this charismatic guy on YouTube, like he's basically explaining it. And breaking it all down for me.
Yeah, and that's where the law channels and game mechanics channels come in.
Don't I need like 20 million books to play this game? No, the PDF of basic rules is free, and there's a character creation.
The barriers of entry got removed midway through there, so it was no longer, you didn't have to buy the bulky books. The rules were available online. So you were unburdened from that. You didn't have to have a local group of gamers that you went around and had dinner at their house every week. You could just pick up a group online more easily through Facebook groups or whatever. We had COVID-19. People were stuck inside with nothing to do. And all of a sudden, we're at that sweet spot where nostalgia was running really a hot thing. We'd just come off all the Avengers movies and everything, and the nostalgia wave was looking for fresh victims. And they went straight to the 80s, of course, because that was like the 60s for our generation. So for the younger generation, which made up now the bulk of the 5th edition audience, they all poured on board, and all of a sudden us Gen X and mostly Gen X guys, we're like, wow, how many new players are there? Oh, there's shit tons. And for some reason we had it in our heads that they were like us. Yeah, for some reason we had it in our heads that they would play the game like we did and enjoy the game like we did. And and then we're like, well, hang on, what? D&D's gotten very, very horny all of a sudden. Like, why the fuck are there so many tiefling? Like, Jesus Christ. And then AI artwork comes around, and oh my God. Oh my God.
I've finally been accepted by the public.
If you thought a few chainmail bikinis were offensive, let me tell you, 5th edition is probably the horniest edition of Dungeons and Dragons that there will ever be. My God.
It probably did create a more of a grognog gatekeeping thing for us.
On that note, though, there are more women playing 5th edition D&D than there ever have been playing the entire game, every other edition of the game ever. So that's also the reason why it's so incredibly horny. I blame you, ladies.
The days of
fanfics,
getting beaten up at school, having to hide your books, and play it in secret in the library.
You're more likely to be accosted by some empowered cosplayed lusty lady at a convention.
So I thought we'd do some personal.
I really liked your book.
Some personal reflections on 5e. This is probably going to be more you than me. You obviously, why do I always say obviously all the time? That's a Kiwi thing, isn't it?
Obviously.
You have made a career. This game has contributed to your current career.
Yes.
So I got some questions. How did you start making a living from D&D 5e?
Well, I was working at a genetics lab, and I fell into a vat of No.
I was wondering where this was going. Here's a fucker working at genetics lab.
I actually was. So I was working at LIC processing tissue samples for the PCR process. And during the day, by night, I would go home and I would turn on my camera and I would start riffing about stuff in the monster manual. My earliest videos were about like giants and dragons and the classic sort of monsters. And then after a while, I realized that I had to, like, people were actually watching this shit. And I had to actually put some effort into it. So the earliest efforts of me will be me on camera, looking into the camera, looking very bleary-eyed because I've been dealing with isopropyl alcohol and like fluorescent lighting all day in a very dry laboratory, like staring at things, going blip, 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 blip with a pipette and reloading robots and washing dishes all day, which is basically what I did. And then came home and made YouTube videos just to stay sane because quite often there wasn't a game that night that I could attend or something like that. I was very much, working. I think Tuesdays was my game nights.
What year was this?
This was early in the 2000s, 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014. So 5th edition was just popping,
So this
right
is
around the start of
D&D Next.
Yeah. So this is really the start of the new edition. And this is like when my friends were playing Iron Kingdoms and stuff. They were sort of tying up in other games, but there was at least, I would say at least 5 or 6 gaming groups, networks in Hamilton that I was aware of, and 2 that I was a part of. And then there was a gaming convention that we had once a year, which is still going and is really good. But you'll usually only have like 5 or 6 tables.
So how many? What's your current? How many subscribers have you got now?
133,000, I think.
Nice.
Something like that.
I thought it was cute when I told my daughter how many YouTube subscribers he had, and she was like, "Mr. Beast has got 3 million."
Yeah.
Like you were some type of loser.
Thanks. Yeah. I was saying to Fred the other day, it's like, look, subscribers is nothing. It's how many viewers you actually have. So viewership wise, I've always been a relatively modest, small channel. I'm very specialized. I'm very niche. A lot of people have seen my stuff, but not many people know what I actually do or how I make a living out of it. But the secret to making money on YouTube is just to do steadily stuff which is easily referenced for years to come. So I just stick to what's in the books and what's in the magazines and what's in that sort of stuff. Evergreen content. Evergreen content. So it's a reference channel, like an education channel. I'm not chasing after the latest D&D controversy. I'm not, the OGL thing was really out of the norm for me because I was so upset with what was happening.
But would you say that 5e contributed to your success at YouTube?
Yeah, I would say so because it was easier to homebrew stuff. But I was like, I think I would have done just as well with 4th edition if 4th edition was as popular. I can't say that the actual attributes of the game itself contributed anything to 5th edition being more successful or not. But I did find it more enjoyable to explain the game. I did find it more enjoyable to play, and I did like that I had all those resources of lore. And I can thank 5th edition for being devoid of lore support. So that gave me the niche to step in and take up the slack and provide lore for people because I saw a lack in the market, you could say.
Yeah. Did you notice a change in the community as it grew on your channel?
Yeah. First of all, it was a massive influx of very hopeful and enthusiastic young people who brought a lot of memes and humor to the game. And also a lot of people who relied on the game to get them through dark spots, like with COVID-19 and with depression and with, the economy and all that sort of stuff and disasters and things. People were feeling really down and depressed and didn't trust the government and all that sort of stuff. So just having something that they could listen to that wasn't the news cycle or something was good. And so us YouTubers who were providing these stories and stuff for people, it was like free magazines or free comics or free, TV shows that they could tune into and, divorce themselves from reality for a while.
I think that's probably my my reason is for getting into fifth edition. I moved back to New Zealand after I've been living in Australia for 15 years. My dad had passed away. My mum was living by herself. We decided to move back home from Perth back to a small town, New Zealand. And it was weird being back here. I didn't know anyone anymore. Everyone had left. I could feel 50 starting to approach. And I was starting to feel a little bit down, a little bit sort of, I wasn't in a good place, I don't think, mentally. And then a local game shop opened up. My wife suggested, you need to get a hobby. And, she thought maybe golf or something normal. But this game shop opened up and I joined it. I was the oldest there by about 20 years. We played through Lost Mine of Phandelver. And then after that, I decided to step up and DM. And then we went through COVID. Our group got sort of closer and closer. And we still play now. I still have the same people. They're all in their 20s. They still roll up every Saturday playing. I think it helped me get through a dark period of my life and sort of reconnected. And it introduced me to people like you and Fred, like a worldwide community as well, where I've grown, now I've made new friends, like-minded people my age. So I think 5th edition definitely was there at a time where I needed it, and I really appreciate it for that. So I think COVID obviously had had an effect on a lot of people like that mentally, and I think that's a good point. I think that really helped. Sort of people were looking to escape because there was nothing on the news. I don't want to get into politics, but obviously stuff was going on in America. Worldwide pandemic.
It was a heated time. Yeah, it was a crazy time, man. Yeah, I think that more so than ever, the last 10 years has made me feel like we're in a parallel universe and it's not the right one. You know what I mean? We're in the alternate universe, which is supposed to just, it's supposed to peter out and die and nobody will care. The main timeline, the main characters have gone on sideways. Like, oh shit, how did I miss that bus?
Are we in purgatory? Is this lost?
Yeah. So now it's like
my backyard.
it's almost like a subcontext for everything that happens these days. It's like you expect the more bizarre thing to happen these days. The more weird and bizarre and bad it is, it's like, yeah, that's probably the truth. We're in a bizarre universe. Anyway, I can't really say though that 5th edition, because of what it is, its actual rules on paper contributes to it being more popular. I think, as you say, it's a combination of societal and historic events, which
and a want for nostalgia, and accessibility, charismatic. There were people that were leading the charge that were very charismatic and easy to enjoyable to watch. Fantasy was due a comeback as well.
So for all those executives who pat themselves on the back and say 5th edition success is my doing, I think you need to slap yourself maybe and get a reality check, and that it wasn't your doing, and it was lightning in a pan, and you can't replicate it. All you can do is try and perpetuate it, I think. And that's probably what they're doing with this new edition change, is just perpetuating 5th edition. They're not really trying to change it very much.
Do you have a favorite memorable moment with 5th edition?
Oh, so many. Most of them character deaths. As an older gamer, it's mostly the grim carnage. I also learned that some things that I like, game systems that I don't like Eberron, for instance. I'm just not really that cool on Eberron as a game background setting. Sorry, Keith Baker. And I've tried out lots of different third-party published stuff, and we had some really good innovative stuff that came about because of 5th edition. Like the Stargate SG-1 RPG, for instance, which uses 5th edition at its core, but it's altered it to become more like a TV show format. And it's got some really good tools in there that you can apply to anything because it's using 5th edition as a base. That's one of the best things. I think somebody really needs to correlate to get together all of the 3rd edition books that were brought out and say, okay, does this have any alterations to the rules, the basic rules of 5th edition that improve it, and then make a master edition, an advanced 5th edition, you could say, which uses all of those third-party rules as options, and just sort of, tax it all together.
Be interested to see. We'll get to that when we talked about the future, but I'll be interested to see if Pathfinder is going to do anything after this update.
Yeah, well,
we'll get a third edition.
Gosh, it hasn't been that long since their last one. Been 5 years or so as well. Pathfinder's probably never going to get back onto the market share that it had with 4th edition. They're dreaming if they think otherwise. Their best bet really is to go with Starfinder. I think Starfinder is probably their golden ticket at the moment because it's sufficiently different from what 5th edition is doing. Yes, it's Spelljammerish, it's Planescaper-y, but it's really quite different from both of those, which I think is a really selling point because Pathfinder is very derivative of regular D&D. It's too derivative for me. It's just like, it's uncanny valley.
I've got the Pathfinder starter box, but I've not even unwrapped it.
Right.
I thought I've never played it. It's easy to play with the group I have. It's easy to play. My players are all invested using Beyond and make their characters, and they've all bought players' handbooks on Beyond, and just to introduce a whole new system to them is a big ask. So it's just easier for me to carry on playing 5th edition because it's all the players have done most of the work now. I don't have to teach them how to play the game. We can just enjoy the game.
Yeah.
So
that was the other good thing going for it with 5th edition. It was a more return to what the D&D that everybody knew. So it was more familiar, and there was a lot of I think a huge contributing factor was so many people were online on social media saying, no, it's good. The coast is clear. 5th edition is actually good. You're going to like it. If you like 2nd edition, you will like 5e. And that got a lot of older people giving it a try because of word of mouth. But it also got a lot of young people going, oh, well, yeah, I guess it's okay then. If they say it's okay, it must be all right.
Yeah.
But the influx of young people playing 5th edition was really...
I play with young people. So the youngest at my table was 18. And I think, he was 16 when he first joined.
Right.
And, he's the idiot that is always getting the party into... He's the reason we roll initiative most of the time. He plays pretty much... He plays a halfling rogue called Pat, and Pat likes to run his mouth, and Will, who is the player, likes to run his mouth in real life. So it's, and it's fun. He brings a dynamic to our group that creates a lot of encounters that you weren't anticipating. He's the one that's like, surely no one's going to pick a fight with this guy. I don't need a stat block for this.
Let's see. I've run a number of adventures that are online. So there's Prisma, which is a desert world. This was a lot of world building for me. So Prisma was a world with a ring around it, like Saturn, but the ring caused light reflection on the surface to create this like desert that just rolled across and burnt and blasted everything in its wake. So every few hundred years, it would sort of this cleansing effect would pass over. And there was an underground city, kind of like Cooper-Pedy, that they invaded the City of Glass.
Cooper-Pedy?
Yeah, kind of. It was cool because that was just like world building and using a new game system, and a group of pickup players that I've met online that went the full distance, really. We ran that game quite a while. We also ran a lot of Planescape type games. And I was developing a lot of the cosmology videos and things like that I did. So there's a lot of, I'm always ready to go to anywhere you want in the multiverse in the game. And as Fred will explain, I'm always really good at shoving a lot of things into the game right from the very get-go. There's a lot of action and drama in media res with my games because it's very zany. Like I just let the players do anything they want.
That was one good thing about 5th edition is the ease of homebrewing. It was really easy to put your own content into that system. It wasn't, like you're saying, it wasn't law-based, so you didn't have to play in. Obviously, they defaulted to Faerun and the Sword Coast as their setting, but you didn't have to play your adventures there. You could just play it in any generic fantasy world of your own imagination, or which is good.
Yeah, got to say though, also because of the success of Matt Colville and because of the amount of online access that this game has had during its era, self-publishing really developed as a thing.
Yep.
Kickstarter, because of Matt Colville, really lit the fire under a lot of creative people's arse. They saw D&D as a venue to get into publishing. So we've seen massive amounts of third-party content for 5th edition. This huge, like if you go in the D&D
DM's Guild,
DM's Guild, or Drive-Thru RPG.
Yeah.
You'll see so much of that, and it's become so synonymous that we know those websites like the back of our hand. We can't even think of another one that doesn't, like it.
Not only that, like the format we're in now, podcasting.
Yeah,
another one that just live plays. Everyone started doing live plays.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion.
So that was another good thing about 5th edition as well, is you could run an adventure like Curse of Strahd. It's quite an intimidating book, but you can jump on YouTube or find a podcast where someone's actually playing the game through, and you can listen to it and hear their interpretation of how to run this game and pick up ideas. It was just so much accessibility as a DM.
Yeah.
So you can go, oh, this book is intimidating. How do I run that? And then you listen to someone run the game, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how they did it. Oh, I like that. I'll steal that. I'll take a bit of that. So, and creators, the community was really friendly as well. Out of all the nerd-based communities I've come across, because I'm a big Star Wars fan, big Marvel fan, definitely the least toxic. I know there is toxicity in there, but I've always felt very welcomed by the D&D community, asking questions, and people always seem to be offering advice or referring you to different things.
Something that I've always thought is normal, but I've been told is quite weird, is I respond to comments on my videos a lot. I've finally put a cutoff point about 4 years. So if a comment is over 4 years old, I won't reply to it. Finally, but
that's fair.
Yeah, but anything else?
So so if you want to put a comment on AJ's video and wait 4 years and he hasn't got back to you, then you're an asshole.
Yeah, that's why. That's why. Yeah, but I mean, you can go onto a video that's 4 years old and comment, and I'll still see it and respond to it because I see everything. I'm everywhere.
So, last question. Advice for creators. What advice would you give someone starting out in the D&D content creation field?
So first of all, there was a really interesting interview I saw where it was an actor who was saying, "I'm a writer," and it was Jack Nicholson who was telling a younger actor that he's a writer, which is the only reason why he's lasted in the industry. So in order to be in a creative industry, you have to be a creative person, and creativity is quite often expressed through a medium that other people can absorb. Writing is how that is usually expressed. Like if you're in animation and stuff, you still have to write scripts and storyboards. And if you're making videos, your best bet is to make scripted videos, because otherwise you get ums and ahs and pauses and all sorts of stuff, and it makes it really difficult to edit stuff. Also, it's a value-added ability. So if you edit and write all your scripts for your videos, eventually you're going to be a good enough writer, to publish a novel or something like that. So, and also all the scripts that I've done for my videos are stacked up over there. My Grammarly stats are ridiculous, just ridiculous. It tells me how much I've written. I write the equivalent of 4 novels a year in video scripts. So just to give you some idea, that's Patrick Rothfuss novels. So writing a novel is not like writing a video script. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a novelist, not yet, but I'm getting there. But the sheer amount of writing that I do is quite shocking. I would say write every day, build it like a muscle, feed your brain the right food, so like fish oils and stuff like that, and respect your process, whatever it is. It's not going to be the same as everybody else's, but the main thing is that there's no getting around the fact that you have to work your ass off. You have to write. You have to create every day.
Do it, and just as long as you like what you're doing as well, I think you have to have a passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're not passionate about it, if you're putting on a personality, if you're putting on a voice or something like that, that just becomes tiring after a while. So you're best just being yourself and doing stuff about something you're really passionate about, because that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear complaints or criticisms. They get enough of that on mainstream media. They want to hear what you love, and they want to feel that love, and they want it to be genuine. Yeah. So don't be falsely positive about stuff.
Why I like talking to you, mate. You know,
right?
Yeah. I just need to get more professional in my speaking. In my speaking, as I say.
Yeah. So you're listening to yourself now. So that's the step. That's the first step.
I'm self editing as I go.
Yeah. After a while, if you read enough scripts and don't have enough real life conversations, you start to sound like your actual broadcast person self. So when I'm talking to people,
I live with my wife is Brazilian, so she speaks broken English, and I take the piss out of her broken English a lot, so much that it's actually become how I talk. And then my kids don't listen to me, so the other people I talk to are dogs. So this is my anyway.
this is the most conversation that either of us have. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Cool. Is there what's been your main challenges?
I've gone through the entire ringer on social media. Like everything that you can throw at somebody. I've had my channel cancelled. I've been socially cancelled. I've had threats, that sort of thing. I would love to show up to Gen Con one day and actually say hello to people that I've been talking to for years. I've seen creators come and go. I've seen trends come and go. Probably the lowest point was the OGL thing. That was the biggest overall threat to my career in gaming. But
okay, well, we'll jump onto that, because I think we need to discuss the OGL debacle and the other controversies.
Open game license controversy.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone knows. So, obviously, in January 2023, it got leaked that they were going to make some changes to the OGL.
Mm-hmm.
And the community were not happy.
Ropeable. we were ropeable. We were furious. We were justifiably very, very miffed. We were,
because they denied it at first, didn't they?
Yeah, they. What happened is they didn't have a PR team that were safeguarding against their CEO coming out and saying stupid stuff. They said they wanted to monetize the hobby more. They weren't making enough money, so they just said we're greedy. More and more things came to light about how just nasty it was to work at Wizards of the Coast and the growing influence of Hasbro, because Wizards of the Coast was earning a lot of the company's money. And so they got more and more influence in that corporate culture, the back room of the executives and stuff or whatever. And that's the thing. We just didn't know what was going on in the background, because the company's policy had been very closed door, siloed, keeping the creatives separate from each other, keeping projects under lock and key, relentless teasing in 5th edition. It was just really fucking annoying. Sometimes I just wanted to grab Jeremy Crawford and say, look, it's not funny. This is like your little titillating laughs and giving us little hints of stuff. It's just that's not marketing. That's just masturbating. That's really annoying. Just stop it. Just show us what the fucking product is. And so that was They didn't announce like what the print schedule for the year was. It was like
always like how, what's his name? Todd
Kenrick.
He's always so enthusiastic to have to interview. Like, I feel sorry for the guy sometimes, because he has to
I've got to check that guy for some sort of a syndrome. Yeah,
he's always got to pretend to be like super pumped for whatever bullshit is coming in.
Yeah. I mean, Todd is he's a really good example of somebody who works as a creative, who works in this industry. It's like, you got to be ready to pivot. You got to be ready to pivot and follow whatever the trend is. And if people call you a shell or whatever, fine. They're not paying your fucking bills. Okay. You know, don't get sensitive about it when you're rich, not when you got bills to pay.
There was diversity issues going on at Wizards as well.
Yeah, they had a massive shakeup. We've had most of the company get fired. So the Wizards of the Coast,
I think December 2023, they announced 1,100 layoffs, including Mike Mills.
Yeah, He
who
was kind of
there.
on the way out anyway. He's largely been involved in the electronic side of things, so developing Baldur's Gate and various other gaming things.
Yeah.
He's the one that I also during this era I kind of sideways worked with Wizards of the Coast. I can't say that I worked for them. I don't want to say that I worked for them.
I know Fred's got his name in the Monster Manual.
Right. Playtesting.
Mm.
Yeah. So I worked with Took Studios, which is a Canadian gaming company over in like Toronto. No, not Toronto. Like Montreal, French Quebec. And they got bought up by Wizards of the Coast midway through while I was working on that project for them. I was just a law consultant, and then as soon as Wizards of the Coast got on board, they immediately dumped heaps of writing tasks on me, which I wasn't contracted for. But at that time, I had lots of like family stuff which was going on, so I had to pull back from side projects, which were like at the time, even then, videos on YouTube was my main money earning thing. Working for Larian, not working for Took Studios was just a side gig. So I didn't find it exciting. I just found it a pain in the ass. But luckily, I managed to combine it with making videos at the time. So if you go back and see my video on the Uthgard Barbarians, that's the exact time that I was working on as a consultant for Took Games that made the Dark Alliance video game. Oh, unfortunately, the Dark Alliance video game sucked, but the lore and stuff in the game is really good.
Yeah, I've gone back to have a look at some of these old D&D games, and yeah, they don't hold up too well.
Yeah, that was a really unfortunate case of Baldur's Gate 3 was coming down the pipe, and this other gaming company had kind of bootleg made a game because they didn't have permission to make.
Sorry, I just realised there's another Kiwi connection there. I know the ad for Dark Alliance was Jeremy Clement from Flight of the Conchords. Yeah, he did the narration for the ad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because I was watching the trailer the other day. It really landed into the whole Dritz thing, wasn't it? Is that the one with the Dritz? Like
Dritz? Oh, the Dritz one came late, like the one with the nursery rhyme later on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
might be confused.
That was the one that I think was him. Yeah, that was really, really well done. No, unfortunately, Dark Alliance, it kind of got kiboshed by the parent company, you could say. Like they published it, but it could have been so much better if they put any money and effort into it. If they just put another 6 months development into it and really gotten some professional programmers behind it, they could have ironed it out and made it a really good game. It would have been a tactical, fast-paced group beer and pretzels game. But unfortunately, it really was a letdown. Meanwhile, Larian was making Baldur's Gate 3, and Baldur's Gate 3 was the biggest boost to my career that I've ever seen through something which I could noticeably point to and say, that made this game popular. And Baldur's Gate 3 was a massive uptick. I went from, my income went up by 3 times, 300% during that era and that it was popular.
This is obviously, there's that word again. This is where the new core books are aimed at this audience. I feel this is who Hasbro want to onboard now, is this community, this Baldur's Gate 3 community.
Very much so. And they would be stupid not to, and you'd be stupid to begrudge them for it, because it's just market forces. It's just the reality of the situation.
I understand. I look at Hasbro as a great white shark, you know. It's a business. You can't get angry at a great white shark for eating someone. It's an
eating machine. It's designed for one purpose: to find IP, consume it, and spit out shitty copies.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, the D&D has become a vanilla template that they can tack anything onto. I guess we're gonna get into, unless you talk about your memorable moments from 5th edition.
Well, the other thing that the OGL had an effect on as well was, so the OGL got leaked in January, and in March they finally released the movie Honor Amongst Thieves.
Yeah, unfortunate, because so many people were really, really bitter at D&D at that time, and we didn't even want to look at anything Dungeons and Dragons.
That one and Dragonlance were the two that came out around that time.
Yeah.
Dragonlance's book was terrible.
Yeah. But that was on brand for Dragonlance, though. I've got no great love for Dragonlance products. A number of them. Look. Before you at me, okay. Much love for Dragonlance. Much love for Dragonlance. I love the novels. I was there with you. I was the kid reading the Dragonlance novels, loving it. Tennis half elven is my Brad Pitt. No, but look,
Wrestling Margery is my Benedict Cumberbatch.
But look, the History of Dragonlance source book is not a source book. It's basically a shitty recipe book that they mopped up off the studio floor.
I got that one as well. I got that.
It's a really, really like. There's no timeline in it. It's not a bit. It's wanky. It's a wanky piece of shit.
They're still releasing D&D cookbooks. I don't get that. I've never had the desire. I noticed there's
actually,
a cookbook, and
the 5th edition D&D cookbook was actually really good.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't get that marketing. Sorry.
Yeah, it is really good. I think they need a more basic version. I think they are overestimating Americans' cooking skills. But like an Edmund's cookbook, like, basic halfling pancakes and stuff like that.
It's the price of groceries that stops me using a cookbook.
Yeah,
it's just
true.
Yeah, cost of ingredients. I'd rather just go get it pre-made at a restaurant.
But that just, I mean, it's a testament to how many products have come out for 5th edition that, there are cookbooks too. There's colouring books, also the full gamut. Kids' lunch boxes, you name it, there's everything.
Yeah, I think I guess my memorable moments of 5 years, it's just, probably just got me through that hard time of my life, really, and rediscovering my love for fantasy and my love for playing role-playing games, my love for just nerd stuff in general, meeting Fred, meeting my players, having something every Saturday where I'm laughing and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Just escapism, writing. I've become creative. It's led on to this podcast now. So, yeah, I appreciate 5th edition because I was in a funk and it got me out of a funk, and I'm so that's I don't want to get too personal or anything, but I don't have any one distinctive memory. And I enjoy being a dungeon master. I miss being a player. I think once you decide to put the dungeon master hat on, it's very hard to. No one ever wants you to take it off.
Well, now that you've got Fred and I were just talking about this the other day. Now that you've begrudgingly put the podcast up on YouTube, you are technically a YouTuber, and you can join us on the YouTube Roundtable and be a player in one of our broadcast games.
I know I have been invited by Wally, which is that's so flattering, and it's all a bit surreal, but we
just need fresh meat, man. We just need fresh meat.
I don't have a face for YouTube, but definitely.
That's why you're covering it in beard. It's working out.
Yeah, I am becoming Alistair Blackcoat.
Yeah.
Should we go into the future? What do you think the future is? So I've got 3 things here. Stop me at any point. Mm-hmm. So obviously we're getting fucking that word just keeps.
Obviously, I think only you are noticing it, but yeah, okay.
We've got 3 core books coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And there are rumors that future releases are going to just be digital from there on. These are going to be our last physical core books.
They have said no officially that there will be more printed books.
Okay. All right. Yeah, a lot of people got upset by that, but I can understand that from a business perspective. And I know they push the whole, it's the environmentally friendly thing to do as well, which that pisses me off.
Yeah.
I still own a physical book. Project Sigil. Do you think that's the future? Not what I saw.
It's rough, man. Look, they're scrabbling and trying to make best with what they've got. But what they really need to do, I think, is go, look, okay, who are the people who are developing Magic the Gathering Arena? Get those people and basically use those resources and expand them dramatically to make your VTT. Don't start from scratch, but start with what Magic the Gathering Arena is and format everything exactly the same. Because you don't need to do it all twice. You don't need to. You've already done half the work with D&D Beyond and Magic the Gathering Arena. You can combine the two quite well. They will
I
work.
quite like
It
the
is the future
maps.
that everyone has feared, where you got booster packs and you're paying like for gemstones to get this and that unlocked. But we all know that. Stop fucking dithering around and making like it's not going to happen. Was the Coast. Like when your customers are telling you what you are already planning, don't pretend like you aren't. That's really, really, really annoying and really, really hard to backtrack from, because it just destroys all trust.
You think they would have learnt that from the OGL?
You would think, yeah. Maybe like the HR department that they obviously hired an emergency. I think it was the Pinkertons actually. Like to suddenly, that's why they clammed up all of a sudden during the OGL and didn't say anything for weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden they were spitting out these tactical comments and stuff. It's like, now they've got a PR firm working for them, obviously.
What do you think of this new thing they've been doing with getting third party books onto Beyond as well, like Dungeon Dudes, Matt Koval's book?
It's a slippery slope, because now they're impinging on Drive-Thru RPG and One Bookshelf. Which is kind of good, because those guys have had a monopoly for a long time. It's not a true monopoly. There are alternatives, but name one. And yeah, I like it because it's an expansion. It's also dangerous though, because it makes it very hard to boycott their company if they've got third-party content on there as well. Because that way you're boycotting people who aren't necessarily the bad guys. Like Cobalt Press have done nothing wrong.
I think it's had a bad effect, or not a bad effect, but it's had a knockback effect on certain YouTube channels. So, for example, Dungeon Dudes.
Right.
Now they're trying to do their review of the public player's handbook. They're getting that shrill. You're a shrill because you're now in Wizard's pocket. Your book is on Beyond.
Yeah. They they sit at a separate table when they go to Gen Con. Yeah, no. I think it's perfectly fine. It's just another avenue which is opened up for creatives. So I've got the possibility of putting something on the D&D Beyond.
And I think it's cool that your players can use get a background from that book and use it on their D&D Beyond digital character sheet.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with like I've got players that use a mixture of physical character sheets and D&D Beyond. And I don't mind it at the table. Sometimes it speeds up the game a lot using it. So especially if you've got an inexperienced player and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. What does this spell do? And they're flipping through the book. I'm like, just use Beyond, mate. You can just press it and it's straight to the spell.
Yep.
And you can read it.
The days of no cell phone at the table are gone.
Yeah. Yep.
So anybody who insists that no electronic devices at the table, that's great. Why don't you go out and pick plants off a tree and dry it to make your tea, you Luddite. Yeah.
You can still...
AI is the biggest shake-up, I think, because this new edition is the dawn of AI, the AI era. So AI art, AI writing make dungeon mastering and planning very, very easy.
Yeah, and it's now, AI is now starting to be pre-installed on, I noticed the new Microsoft... what's their little iPad called? I can't remember what it's called.
The Surface thing or whatever.
Yeah, Surface Pro. So that all the new Microsoft stuff coming out now has Copilot built into it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of becoming its default search engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use AI extensively with making my videos and stuff these days, because ironically, it's less stealing off artists, because beforehand, in order to make a video montage with my videos topic, I'd have to go to ArtStation or various other things. Ironically, scraping artwork off artists to put in my videos without paying them any money. So exactly what they accuse the AIs of doing was what I was doing. And then when AI came around, it's just randomly generated images using static and removing things which aren't an object based on keywords.
It's a tool. I use it as a tool.
I use it as a tool. The idea that most anti-AI people have is that the robot is like the AI is going through all the existing artwork and looking for examples of a thing and then putting it straight into the image. That's not what it does. It trains it. Like, if you only ever had images of green apples, it would only ever be able to draw green apples. You know what I mean? It learns
I
that an
don't.
apple is green.
I
But
don't.
if the
I don't
moment you show
use.
it a red apple, it will make red apples as well.
I don't use it for art. I do use it for my DM prep.
Mm-hmm.
So because I have a lot of the books on Beyond, so I'll just copy and paste where I'm up to in the book. I'll copy and paste my DM notes from the previous session, and then prime that into AI, and then just build my session from there. It speeds my sessions up a lot.
Yeah,
I do argue with it a lot. Like I
yeah,
find
yeah.
I'm like calling it an idiot because it's not listening to what I say, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, fuck, it just probably would be easier not to use this.
Right. Robert Downey
But
Jr. deserves a medal for how polite he was to his AI that he was training up in the Iron Man movies.
yeah.
I'm not as polite for sure. Eventually, since we're talking about the future, eventually the day will come through sheer convenience. It's our own downfall is our convenience, right? So in the privacy of our own home, when nobody is watching us, we're going to go with the easiest option most of the time. And the easiest option will be, okay, if there's a robot AI dungeon master that everybody is using, it's getting thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of training because everybody's using the same one. So it's developing and enhancing itself much faster than any other option. So through sheer our own habits, we will make an AI which will take over DMing and become basically the Alexa of dungeon mastering.
And it should be voiced by Matthew Berry.
Matt Berry? Yeah.
Mm.
God damn that you rolled a critical hit again. Father. Yeah. Where are we going? New York City. Yeah. God, Matt Berry is fantastic. I will happily donate my voice services to become the next D&D Siri if anybody's offering.
Yeah, you do have a very calming voice.
That's true. Very calming.
Obviously.
You're feeling calm. Very relaxed. Your
All
wallet,
right.
Your wallet is feeling light.
You got anything else before we get into letters?
Let's see. We haven't got a Patreon and stuff yet, have we? We should
No,
probably get one.
I haven't tried to monetize this at all. I thought we'd get to the 10 episodes and see.
Yeah, see if we can continue.
I read somewhere that most podcasts don't make it to 10 episodes. What are we up to now? I've lost count. 6 or 7?
Six, I think.
6.
Five,
yeah,
6.
We're over halfway.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe
okay,
should
letters.
Probably think
It must be time for letters.
Must be time. Insert theme here. I'm going for a piss.
Bring the letters. Hear the call. Wizards read them one and all. Questions from the listeners. Voices loud and clear. You can have your opinions read out here.
Okay. Nothing I need to edit out.
You'll have to find out.
All right. So I went on the socials this week and I asked, what's your favourite thing about 5th edition D&D and what's your least favourite aspect of it? So Bradley J. Wilson, his favourite thing is the advantage and disadvantage system. That was actually a lot of people's favourite.
It streamlined play so much because it got rid of all the plus 1 for wind, -5 for half quarter cover. The wind is prevailing to the left. The sun is behind your eyes. There's lemon juice on your forehead. You know, there's all these like little things that you have to factor in.
It took all those convoluted rules from like 3 and 3.5 into this just one simple mechanic which solved everything. That was easy to understand. Though I still have players ask me, "What's that again?" You have advantage. What's that again?
Right.
So. His least favourite thing is older gamers who tell me how 5e isn't D&D and all their bullshit. Well,
yeah. Yeah.
We're not all like that, mate.
No, certainly not.
I'm the friendly grognard. Daryl Wagner.
The only thing I will say is that like the lore from 5th edition is lacking, but you already know that. Like that joke about the remembered realms is the Sword Coast, and all the rest of it is the Forgotten Realms. Yeah, that's true.
I do like Sword Coast as a setting. That I'm going to keep with Sword Coast. I almost bought myself one of those, those big mats that people play Magic the Gathering on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm tempted. There's a Sword Coast one, so I'm tempted to buy that just for behind my DM screen. So I've permanently got the map as like my thing to roll my dice on.
Right. There's a company over in the States where, the big vinyl banners that they have at basketball games and stuff like that, they can actually print those really fine and detailed. So you can get a whole heap of D&D maps, and then send them that file, and they will print out a big, like 6-meter roll of vinyl maps for you.
Also, I love Ed Greenwood as well, and I love diving in. Like, I love the fact that he now has a social presence, and you can just dive in. And similar to you, he has a very calming voice, and I just do like Sword Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Daryl Wagner, easy to learn, easier than anything but basic, but I hate the horrible index in the back of the player's handbook. I know this is one of Fred's bugbears, indexes. And,
at least it's got one.
An organisation of the books. That's been a big thing in 5e. That's something that they want to correct in the new editions. They're really focused on in these new core books.
I'd be more focused on the index than the glossary. I could quite easily drop a glossary in favour of a better index in a book long term, because you'll learn the terms, but the index is always useful.
Yeah. I know whenever you watch, I know Fred doesn't really do book reviews anymore, but when he was doing book reviews, he'd always have this big, like, angry classic Fred rant about the index.
Yep. If a D&D book that's got like multiple items in it or something like that doesn't have an index, I won't use the book.
Yeah. Marcus Wusthoff. My favorite is the tons of third-party game designers that are making settings using 5e.
Yeah.
There are many aspects of 5e D&D that I find to be hokey and too fluffy. My least favorite is probably actually D&D itself. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. The third-party stuff that's come out in 5th edition some of it is like surpasses the official 5e stuff, I feel.
Yeah, very much so. There's been so many really good stuff, products come out for it. Like, so we got Drakenheim from the Dungeon Dudes. We've got Critical Role and Xandria.
I think that Critical Role book is one of the best 5th edition books. I'm not even a big fan of Critical Role, but just for a bang for your buck, it's got so much in it. That Explorer's Guide to Wildmount.
Yeah, they did. They did Ravenloft really well for 5th edition. You got to say that. I was surprised at how popular it was. But people really like the vibe. I think mainly they like the vibe because they've never played Call of Cthulhu before, and they've never had that vibe before. But people who played Call of Cthulhu understand Ravenloft intrinsically. I think that it's a hopeless setting where you're definitely going to die.
I know it's the way it's purposely designed, but Castle Ravenloft's map breaks my brain.
Yeah,
just that style it's drawn and just trying to track where people are.
Oh, the isometric style.
Yeah, I can't. Okay. My brain can't deal with that. I like looking at it. I think it's like, it's a cool. I know the old Dragonlance modules use those maps as well, but I can't get my head around how to run that. I have to use a different map.
Well, so Ravenloft is really well done, and it's kind of unusual. It breaks the mold in 5th edition because it definitely involves character death, and everybody will tell you, 5th edition is all about superpowered characters who can't die. It's like, well, then why is Ravenloft so popular, dink? That flies in the face of your argument, doesn't it?
Well, that's one of the comments here. So, yeah, Johnny Swooshnenter, his favourite is it's easy to learn how to DM. His least favourite is it makes players damn near invincible.
Right. Well, you just need to throw more mobs at them. Yeah, numbers more than anything. Stop having stop presenting them with a bag of hit points to pulverize with no other options. And you'll quickly discover that D&D is designed to be dynamic, not just one-sided fight.
It is stacked in the player's favor.
Yeah.
There are some mechanics there.
Because the players are going to have multiple fights every day. That's the whole point. But all it takes is one of those fights going wrong, and now they're lacking resources, or they're crippled or something like that.
Okay. Zachary Hackman. Favorite, reusable and scaled cantrips. Least favorite, classes overlap. Classes used to be specialists in specific areas, wizards with arcane spells, rogue with skills, etc. Now classes seem to be a little bit of everything. The rogue was once my favorite class, now it feels worthless because everyone has access to all the skills that made the class unique.
Oh boy, you need to go back and play 4th edition to understand how bad that was. Yeah. Everyone's a wizard. That's the complaint you get. That was very much the complaint in 4th edition, because everybody used the same cards, the same, mechanically the way that you ran your character was pretty much the same with every single one. They vanillaized it. They've formularized it, which when you make a game, you want to streamline things and make things simpler. And getting rid of specialized systems for character classes and stuff like key points as opposed to psionic power points or inner strength points or whatever else. Mastery points. I'd see mastery points going.
Well, it's how do you encourage people to be these other like, why would I be a barbarian when the only thing that happens when I level up is I just get to hit things harder? So
because at some point they forgot what the barbarian was for.
Yeah.
The ranger, for instance, is Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. That's what the ranger is supposed to be. He can talk to his horse. He's got minor magic in that he can control, he can forage for food and, survive falls and heal himself and stuff and get horses to do strange things. But he's not a wizard. He's not a druid. He's not a particularly skilled archer. He's a hell of a swordsman. But, Boromir is better than Aragorn. He's a better swordsman. If they went one-on-one, Boromir would have kicked his ass. But the thing is he's all of those things. He's a jack of all trades martial character. So he's the bard of martial characters. Bards, on the other hand, were supposed to be elven spellcasters. They used the elven song tradition to cast magic and stuff, and fae story and enchantment. And then, of course, you've got rogues are very confusing because now you've got lots of different weird options, and fighters are very confusing. Eldritch Knight shouldn't really exist.
Thief became PC. It wasn't PC anymore to be a thief, was it? So
right, yeah.
They kind of
assassin,
had to branch
essentially.
it out.
Yeah, assassin or burglar or something like that, but not the same at the same time, because your character's got to have some sort of a lifestyle. But there's too much overlap with too many classes having access to arcane type powers and things like that. So yeah, it does feel like everybody's like a cross-class wizard in 5th edition these days.
Yeah, and I think in the new player's handbook, they don't want any dead levels anymore. So it kind of feels like every level something's
I can understand that. 3.5 edition was really frustrating in that like sometimes it was just like, and I have to take this feat. I really don't have a choice with this level because I have to take this because it's the prerequisite for the next one that I want. And that's not even the end point, because the prestige class is like 6 levels away, and I don't even know if we're even going to get all the way through on this campaign.
I mean, I use milestone leveling in my games, and sometimes it is nice when you go to the players, you can level up, and then they get all excited and then sit there going, I only get a +1 to 2 ability scores.
Yeah. Now it's like you level up. Cool, I get another feat. Yeah. I'm an archer now. I know Kung Fu. It's very much like that. Getting a feat these days is like plugging into the Matrix and learning Kung Fu. It's like now your character is totally different. Yeah, cool.
I have one player that's just, he loves leveling up because he just loves to fuck with me. Like, he just will deliberately find the most goofiest spell. Because I just I don't put any restrictions on books. I'm my own worst enemy. I'm like, if it's, as long as it's official content, I don't care. You can use it.
Is the third-party stuff on D&D Beyond now official content?
Well, I think that's DM's discretion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't count it as official content.
You wouldn't?
No. Well, I'd have a discussion. It depends what it is. They'd have to sell it to me, but I am my own worst enemy.
So we've got a new category now. We've got official core books, core rule books only. Then we've got official books made by Wizards of the Coast, And then we've got third-party stuff, which is on D&D Beyond, and then we've got the weeds stuff, which is on from Drive-Thru RPG.
It's like this is like the whole Star Wars legacy book conversation all over again.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
We're gonna have to start speaking in acronyms.
What
else have the viewers got for us?
Love Beyond. Oh, so Bob Kalkman. Love Beyond. Quick and easy. I love Beyond's quick and easy character creation. My downside is healing is a bit fast, and I'm not sure if it's 5e, but no one seems to care about alignment.
Yeah, that's true. No, that is 5e. Alignment is very much an afterthought now, as well as encumbrance. Encumbrance just doesn't factor into any games that I've seen played in 5th edition. I haven't seen it once used.
It's just a hard thing to manage, I think, for the DM and players. It's something that players should probably keep an eye on, but it's just it's a boring rule.
It is a boring rule. It's like, look, you don't need to worry about it until it becomes a common sense issue. If you have a massive pile of coins from a dragon's hoard, it's going to be difficult to transport. That's common sense. You don't need to worry about the encumbrance level of every little thing that you pick up and put down.
Or if you are running a sort of survival type game where you want the players to be running out of arrows or food or
it's
whatever.
Like, look at the end point of that number crunching. Like, okay, it might be important if your character is crossing over a lightweight rope that could break if it has this much weight variance, but is that unlikely, very specific scenario worth all the effort of calculating encumbrance every single time you pick up or put something down? No, it's not. It's not. And when it comes to that actual situation, you can just arbitrate it yourself. You don't need the math.
What's your thoughts on the healing? So the short rest, long rest mechanic.
I agree. It is too easy to heal.
Yeah.
And they've lost sight of what healing actually is, which is largely just pep talk and having a breather and getting your breath back. It's largely not about getting yourself sliced up or having your organs hanging out. That's not the way that healing works.
So just go have a nap.
Like I say, like I have been quoted many times saying, nobody ever gets better at getting a sword in the guts. You don't build up a resistance to having your organs perforated, okay? It's just not the way it works. So healing doesn't work that way. You don't get more hit points because your liver has become tougher. No, you just get better at fending off a sword blow, and you get a little bit fitter. Your cardio's a bit better, so you can last a few more rounds in the combat before you're gassed and the other person gets a shot in that kills you.
Yeah,
that's why boxers run so much and work out. I
want to give a shout out to a Kiwi company called Viva Dirt League.
Dirt League, yep.
I love their D&D logic videos that sort of pull apart these rules that people have with 5th edition.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Viva La Dirt League, you need to be. They are hilariously entertaining. And a proud product of New Zealand.
Yeah, so they do a show called D&D Logic, where they kind of pull apart these
assumptions that we make, these strange assumptions.
Yeah, of this game, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Jared Purdue, the plus, advantage, disadvantage. A lot of people like that mechanic. The negative, Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Their own worst enemy, Wizards of the Coast. They've trained us for 50 years on how to fight evil bad guys, and then they become an evil bad guy, and they're surprised that we fight them.
Is it Wizards of the Coast, or is it Hasbro, or is it a combination?
Well, Hasbro's been around for 100 years. It started out with a bunch of brothers who selling rags, literally selling rags, and recycling pencils or something. Oh, they were making pencil cases. That's right. And then they basically stuck with toys most of the way through their career. And made a habit of basically buying up intellectual property rights and then hoarding them and licensing them out to people and making money that way. They don't actually do anything creative themselves. They don't create anything. They don't make new IP. They just buy it up and market it and sell it. They're
all about growth.
Yeah, they're a merchandising company, essentially. So they want to buy a successful franchise and then ride its coattails, selling as much cheap, shitty products as they can along the way. And they have no moral guide point whatsoever.
The popularity of D&D in 2020 has almost become its downfall as well, because that's set an unrealistic expectation for this game to have continued growth, which is...
I do remember saying to people, D&D has become mainstream. Be careful what you wish for. We're going to see Barbie. We're going to see Barbie's Playhouse Dungeons & Dragons edition. And sure enough, few years later, we had wheelchair Barbies and stuff like that. Like the wheelchair argument in 5th edition has been hilarious.
Oh, we got
bad, but also hilarious.
D&D Lego now.
Yep. Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously they've got Magic the Gathering is a steady growth, but I think the only way I and this is what I think of the future of D&D as well. I think it is going to become sort of some subscription based model, because that's the only way I can see it growing. Them getting like a steady income from it.
Yeah,
that they'll be happy with.
Yeah, but I think that's additional to what Dungeons and Dragons is. So we're branching out now into a new digital medium and a new revenue stream for the company. But that's not all that Dungeons and Dragons will be. And also there's us. So we are the core of Dungeons and Dragons. The company is just a provider of products for us. And really what we do determines the direction that the game goes in the end.
Well, that's
they have no. Much like the Labyrinth movie, they have no power over us. We can put their book down at any time and just play the game the way we want to.
I think if we just reflect back on this whole sort of thing we've looked at over the whole course of the last 50 years, this game has almost died so many times.
Yeah,
and it is still going. And I think it will still be around. I don't think it's going to die. I think it's reached its peak. I don't think that perfect storm of 2020 with Critical Role, Matt Colville, Stranger Things, that's the peak. I don't think we're going to reach that peak again.
I disagree. We haven't had any sandstorms on Martian colonies yet, where people are stuck inside for 4 months at a time.
I mean, Baldur's Gate. I stand corrected. Baldur's Gate
was massive. It was really huge. Yeah. I think that's done more to put Dungeons and Dragons on the map lately than even Stranger Things did.
It's taught people how to play the game badly as well, because a lot of the rules in that game aren't real rules. Sorry, kids. Well, not at my table.
You can see why, though. 5th edition, playing Baldur's Gate 3, tactically, it's a really fun game to play. Like throwing, like you use a lot more thrown objects and potions and things like that. Like you do strange things that you would never do in a role-playing game, because you just haven't had that tactical urgency to do so. It's like the whole Mary of like, look, the only way I'm going to get out of this is to try and set fire to half of the room that I'm standing in. So that's the only thing I can do in this situation. You would never do that in a role-playing situation.
I think it
also, video game, you give it a go.
It also teaches people that D&D is a commitment game, because that Baldur's Gate is massive. It is like hours and hours. And D&D is like, if you're going to play D&D properly, it's months. I always laugh at these people that grab these big books and
I know. Play yeah, that was the thing with that first supplement that came out from Cobalt Press for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. I was just like, nobody's ever going to run this. Like, this is like, know your target audience. Your target audience is not 40-something-year-olds. It's 12-year-olds. That's what the game is for.
I would like to see the return of like more smaller modules, personally, from Wizards. I'd like to go back to that formula.
More of the anthologies of adventures, smaller adventures.
Well, I'm a bit over the whole. Now I've given that Infinite Staircase a bit of a read. I'm a bit over the whole anthology thing. The re sort of like gurgitating old modules. To us.
Yeah, no, not that, but like a collection of smaller adventures that you can run. Just off the seat of your pants, sort of thing. Those are good. Like the quintessential guide to monster encounters that we made. Yeah.
Stuff that's or even loosely connected. So you don't have to. They are slightly connected and they're in the same world. But you don't have to have played this one to play this one.
Yeah. You can do real simple, like if I was Wizards of the Coast, I'd put out a little package. So much like they're putting out the card sets for Magic the Gathering, each one of those would be an expansion of the world of Greyhawk. So the next card set or the next expansion to the D&D Beyond D&D experience will be the Sioux Empire and all of the, you have unlocked 6 ruins, and we'll have a draft tournament where people are exploring these maps for the first time, and if you're broadcasting it, you can get extra points and stuff. That's how I would market it. Tie in the YouTubers, the performers, and the competitive gamers, and say, look, there's incentives for you to do this. Not just shilling, Like, people will watch your channel if you're the first person who's streaming this map for the first time, that people are going to be playing tons and tons of times. Like, even people who like, have the first access to one of those play surfaces on the background of a Magic the Gathering map. Even that is something that people will tune into and watch. And you got to be ready to pivot, as I said, as a broadcaster and as a gaming company, market to people who are selling your products for you. So yeah,
they don't look after their fan base very well.
They don't. They're very, very look. YouTubers are not your creatives. You can't just exploit them and throw them away. They will come back and they will haunt you for fucking years to come. So be nice to your YouTubers. Like, invite them around for sure. Buy them stuff, send them things. Yeah, but they've got to do it. And don't try and manufacture your own YouTubers. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Do you think there's much of a future with all these with the OGL? We got all these people like Matt Koval and Matt Mercer, all creating their own sort of TT RPGs. Do you think that is going to provide real competition towards D&D?
No. It's things like Shadow Dark and stuff like that, which are more suited to the medium. So Shadow Dark is really good at what it does, and like games like Super Atomic, which I've made, which I'm just releasing for free for everybody. It's perfectly suited for just a pickup group that wants to play a really quick superheroes game via any broadcast medium. So it's got no barriers to entry whatsoever. So anybody who can remove even more barriers of entry to fun and gameplay than Wizards of the Coast can have an edge over them.
I guess what I was trying to ask, which I worded really badly, is has this OGL caused another Pathfinder to emerge?
Yeah. I would say that Shadow Dark. I would say that Shadow Dark is another Pathfinder.
Yeah, that can actually have a serious impact on the sales of Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I hate to break it to you, Kelsey Dion, but you've made a monster. Be ready for continual success. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are loving that one.
Yeah. DC 20 is also in Kickstarter at the moment as well. So we haven't even seen the full gamut of games which were in development and coming out, because games quite often take a couple of years to develop. So
yeah, and obviously Matt Koval's got his, what I think is kind of like a love letter to 4th edition. And you guys have played. I know you guys have played. What's
his
Critical Role's
4.75?
Critical Role one?
I haven't played the Critical Role stuff. The Daggerheart. Oh, yes, I have played Daggerheart, but it didn't really make much of an impression. Like, I keep forgetting that I had played Daggerheart.
Yeah, I thought you guys had played Daggerheart.
But I played Mage the Ascension as well. No, Shadow Dark was one of the best ones that I played, and Morkborg, of course, was really good as well. Morkborg's an example of, like, it's a big hit in the punk rock scene, but it's not going to make an impact on the mainstream. So it'll never be a mainstream game, but it'll always be.
I've not played Morkborg, but what I've seen, the books look gorgeous. I do
it's
like the style.
Yeah, you're either very much in favor of their style or not. As I say, I like a nice orderly book with an index, so not really my cup of tea. But the system itself is really simple and good. 2000
AD inspired to me.
Yeah. If I would say, give yourself a few days to read up the Morkborg rules before you run a game. It's not the best game to jump immediately into, and try and pick it up as you go. But yeah.
All right. You got anything else to say about 5th edition D&D, or just D&D overall?
It's going to be a while until I've gotten all of the new books, and the majority of the audience that I apply my trade to is playing the new edition of D&D. So I'm going to be playing 5th edition for quite some time, I think.
Okay. I watched Mike Shea's, he made a character with the new core book the other day. So he photocopied the character sheet, sat down, randomly rolled a character, and just went through the character creation process. I really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to, that's going to be, I'll wait till all 3 core books are out, but that's going to be my next session 0, is going to be pretty much what Mike Shea did, where I'm going to sit down with my players and we're just going to go through together, learn the new rules together, and make the characters together.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that will be, we normally have a break around Christmas. So I think we'll kick off a new campaign around February, which will give me enough time with the Player's Handbook and the DMG. I have no idea what I'm going to play. I don't know if they've got an official adventure coming.
My suggestion to people would be, if you've got a new edition, play basic characters to start off with. Like play a vanilla fighter, play a vanilla warlock and stuff like that, and see how the actual basic system works before you start making your tiefling, alchemist, cross-class, whatever the fuck.
I'm thinking I might actually run the Ghost of Saltmarsh, the 3 adventures there that are connected, because I've always wanted to run those, and they look quite fun.
Yeah,
nice and simple. So yeah, but I don't think D&D is going to die. It's not going anywhere, mate. It's you can't kill this game.
You'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got nothing else really to say. I don't. We haven't really discussed next week. I know there's one subject I've been wanting to talk about.
Warhammer 40k.
Oh, I mean, we've got the whole Games Workshop. We could look at the whole Games Workshop thing, or we could just get specific about Warhammer.
We could.
Yeah. Oh, we'll work it out.
We can wait until next week and start talking about Warhammer and just fight the entire time, which is, because in the grim dark of the Warhammer of the 40, in the grim dark of the future, there is only war.
I need to just immerse myself in more Warhammer lore.
Yes,
I have downloaded a couple of audiobooks to sort of get my head around it. I have no intention of buying miniatures and playing the game.
No, the funny thing is a lot of people do buy the miniatures, but they don't play the game. Yeah, but I personally, I've played the role-playing games of Warhammer 40k. I've never actually managed to play a skirmish game with the miniatures, but I'd love to. So anybody who ever invites me and they've got a spare army, I'll be a very keen participant. But yeah, nice. I'm not going to invest money in that shit unless I've got somebody to play against, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed this series on D&D. If you've stuck with it and learned some stuff, and remember to give us a like on YouTube or Spotify and leave a comment. I'll try and reply. I do try. AJ has taught me that I need to reply to people. So a lot of people take the piss out of me trying to pronounce words or needing to go for a piss every 5 minutes. That's fine. It is what it is, mate.
Yep.
Yep. So good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.